What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Dylan Talks Tone. Welcome to the Just Gonna Say It podcast. It is Tuesday afternoon at 4 p.m., and that is when we usually do this thing. Welcome to all of you who are new to the channel, guitar players and guitar lovers, and that's what we do here is guitar stuff every day of the week. So welcome. We'll chat about a couple of things before we get into I've got two main topics that I want to discuss today. One is people keep talking to me about debunking Glenn Fricker, and we're going to get into why I'm not going to do that. And then number two, this Epiphone peghead deal. Let's see. So, yeah. All right. We got two mics on. There we go. Thank you. If you have guitar questions, get them in the chat with a bunch of question marks in front of them. If you use Super Chat, we will drop what we're doing and address that question immediately. I'm sure there's going to be a very spirited and lively conversation today with a couple of topics that we have. Before we get going, I want to thank my Patreon supporters. Patreon.com/DylanTalksTone is where you can go support the channel, because that's what really keeps all of the reviews and various things going. So we thank you for all of you who support that. And the YouTube members and everybody who uses super chats and super thanks and stuff. That all goes back into reviewing stuff. So reviewing stuff and buying, products for the channel and whatever. So thank you so much for all that. The other thing I want to mention, if you missed the video yesterday, this month is 10 years that Dylan Talks Tone has been in existence, DylanPickups.com, making pickups and making videos, and I'm super, super stoked to have made it 10 years. And we have a special edition pickup on the website. There is a link to it in the description. You can check that out as well. And we are doing 20 sets. There are only 3 left. They came out yesterday. So if you want one, you better jump on that business because there are only 3 left. All right. So first of all, after last week's video, apparently Glenn Fricker came out with another video about, I don't know why guitar pickups don't matter in electric guitars or whatever. And, it's funny. Like, you could just keep saying stuff like this doesn't matter, that doesn't matter, this doesn't matter. It's all collective, right? All the pieces matter. Saying that they wanted me to do like a debunking video and like debunk Glenn Fricker about blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Because there's 2 reasons. One, I'm not a YouTuber feud guy. Do I make my videos the same way he does and have the same manner about things? No. He does it differently than I do, and he attracts a different audience than I do. Do I agree with everything he says? No, but he's also coming at everything from a completely different perspective than I'm coming at them. And this is not something I thought of. Something somebody said in one of the comments on one of my videos or I don't remember, is that he is a studio guy. And so his idea is a lot of times when somebody's in the studio, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I know from working around studios, working in studios, working with studio people a lot, that sometimes the choices of gear that you have to be able to do whatever you can to get the sound that you want out of that particular gear that's in front of you at that time. And there's a skill in that. So can you make all electric guitars kind of sound the same? You can, actually. It is possible. Does that mean that the components that do those things do not matter? No, not at all. But it does mean that we can make a lot of things sound exactly the same. You can make a Tele sound like a humbucker guitar if you do it right, if you mix it right, if you use the right amp. You can use enough gain to mask over a lot of dynamics in pickups. You can do a lot of things. Those sorts of things can be done, and so he's not wrong. uh and I just think it's funny, but I do know that his goal when he is in the studio is different than mine. I'm doing the opposite, so I'm breaking down every little aspect and trying to figure out how to shape, um start from scratch really, and how to shape sound, and how to do that with how we wind pickups, how the magnet choices that we use, magnet strengths, and all that kind of stuff. And he's kind of doing the opposite. He's on the back end of it, and he's like, okay, I need this song to sound like this other song because it's on the same band, same record, and I'm pretty, So he has a different goal than I do, and so it makes sense that he would approach his videos differently. Um, I, I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I should make a video about how to watch a YouTube video. People don't pay attention when you say something in a YouTube video. Now, I know most of you do because you are here every week and you do pay attention, and I can tell. But I'll make a video and I'll say something very, very, okay. I'll say, this Epiphone is fantastic and you should buy it. And this Gibson is also fantastic and you should buy it. And somebody will say, why are you hating on Epiphone? Pay freaking attention. So I think a lot of times people will watch somebody's YouTube video and they will take what they want to hear out of it, or they will, whatever their biases are, they'll take that out of it, and they won't actually listen to what Glenn is saying and kind of step back and look at the context in which he's making his content, and it makes a lot more sense. So no, I'm not going to do a debunking video there because I don't think that there's anything to debunk. I think that there's different ways to do all kinds of things, and I think there's an infinite number of ways to get to the result that you want. I really feel like people focus way too much on this stuff. The other thing I think that people focus too much on is how to get a particular sound. I've never agreed with that. I want my guitar to sound X. I want my guitar to sound like a particular guitar player. I want my guitar to sound like whatever. I want my amp to sound like whatever. Personally, I do not subscribe to that idea. I just don't. It just doesn't make sense to me. My thing is, can I use the sound that I have to make a cool thing that inspires me and inspires others? Use the tools you have to be inspiring. It's just a completely different, it's a backwards way of looking at the way I think most guitar players look at stuff. So, and obviously I don't want to lump anybody into somewhere where they're not lumped in, obviously, but I know that you agree with me that generally speaking, most guitar players are kind of like that. I really overfilled my coffee cup, so it's all the way at the top. All right. Tell you what, let's come back real quick and see if there's any questions in here that we need to answer. And then we will get on to this Gibson Epiphone thing. Let's see. I am just scanning for question marks. So if you didn't put question marks there or you didn't use a super chat, I'm probably going to miss it. And I might still miss it because, Oh, here we go. Hey, Dylan, would a true single coil configuration SSS where all pickups are on at once be out of phase? No, if the wiring is done properly. Or would two of them act as a humbucker like on a Fiore? No, you have to have special wiring to do that. You have to wire them in series in that situation. So no, that is, you can have all three Strat pickups on. David Gilmore mod will do that for you. Let's see. Two mics are on. I think we fixed that right away. Let's just make sure we got caught up here with all this stuff. Okay. Will guitarists ever be happy? You know, I'm really happy. I'm super happy. And it has nothing to do with the gear, honestly. That's a great question. Okay. So let's chat about this Gibson deal. So obviously, hang on, I'm gonna move my leg before it falls asleep. Okay. This Gibson deal. So Gibson put the Epiphone. I should say this more accurately. Epiphone put the Gibson Bookmatch peg head on the new greeny Epiphone Les Paul, and it's $1,500. Which okay, whatever. They can make it cost whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't care about that. If you want to do it for cheaper, we have greeny pickups on the website now. We released them before Gibson did, actually. I think it's a dumb idea. I think it's really dumb. I posted it on my Facebook and people immediately flipped out. So let's talk about why Gibson may be doing this. From the marketing and how do you want to say? Yeah, from the marketing standpoint, what I think they're going to do, because it looks like they're only going to use, according to some stuff I saw online today, they're only going to use that Epiphone peg head with the Gibson outer shape on their custom shop collaborations. Okay. So I'm pretty sure that this guitar with the greeny guitar was like a Gibson custom shop Epiphone collaboration. And what I'm assuming they're doing here is they're creating another level, okay, between the Epiphone, whatever, that $700 one that I had last week. That was fantastic. That guitar was really nice. But they're creating a level kind of between that and an entry level, not an entry level, a standard Gibson Les Paul. And they're kind of doing a custom shop. Well, they are doing basically like a custom shop Epiphone. And my guess in putting the Gibson peg head on that line of Epiphones or that group of Epiphones is to set it apart. So it is my understanding at this time that they will not be putting it on all the Epiphones. They will not be putting on the $699 ones. They'll be putting it on the more expensive ones. Which kind of makes sense if they are trying to draw an association between the Gibson brand and the Epiphone brand on these Epiphone custom shop collaborations. I think that the overall effect of this, I've seen it already. It's only been announced for 6 hours. I think the overall effect of this is just going to fuel more online. The just as good as guys are like fired on up, man. Now they're like, I have an Epiphone and it has a Gibson peg head on it, and now it's just as good as a regular Gibson, and it ain't. I think they're going to have to be very careful about how they market their brand so as to not confuse the consumer within their own brand. I think Fender, for a long time, I think it's getting better now, but I think for a long time, Fender was too confusing. Okay, so you have a $299 Squire on up to, what is it, a $2,500 Telly now? So let's just use Tellys for example. The last time I did a video on this, there was like 27 models of Tellys. And like, well, I guess I should say, if we take the artist ones out, I think it was like 13 models of Tellys. And then there was like 16 models of Strats. Okay. And the reason I had to do the video is because you're like, okay, what does this one come with versus what does this one come with? What does this one have versus what does this one have for this price, and et cetera, et cetera. So the question is, how can we take the confusion out of that? Well, simplify it. That's what you do. You just simplify it. And so I hope that the Gibson brand it's not going to confuse people, because there's already like a crossover between like a whatever the flat paint, whatever they call it. I had one before and I can't remember what it's called, but whatever the flat paint Les Paul is, the one below the Studio. And then I actually have the new ultralight one right over here. It's really good. And that guitar is actually the same price as this new Epiphone is. So there's going to be some crossover in there. And so basically what you're going to have now is you're going to have 1 million people arguing about the age-old thing. It's just going to fuel it more, which is probably going to sell more guitars, honestly. So maybe this is why they're doing it, about which guitar is better and which guitar is worth the money and which guitar is all that kind of stuff. The bottom line is this. If you want to get a Gibson, get a Gibson. If you want to get an Epiphone, get an Epiphone. If you're a just as good as guy, I don't have any time for you. Buy the guitar you want. If you want a Harley Benton, buy a Harley Benton. If you want whatever knockoff guitar of the real thing, buy it. Just know that it's not a Gibson. It's not. And it's not as good. And the materials are not the same. We were very clear about this in the video. It's just not the same. Which is fine. It's totally cool. It's totally cool. And there's a reason why those brands exist. Absolutely, there's a reason. It's just like anything else, Okay, so I was thinking about this while I was going to the post office today, dropping off like 20 more P90s. I have an Audi. Okay, so I have an Audi SQ5. Okay, so it's the fast one. It's the fast version. It's a small SUV, well, mid-size SUV. It's a small SUV, but it's the fast one. So it's like the performance one with all the stuff on it. It is largely the same as a Porsche Macan S Turbo. It's the same motor. It's the same transmission. It's the same everything. And in fact, it's the same chassis. It's the same everything. But I do not walk around saying my car is just as good as a Porsche Macan S, because it's not. They are different. There are principal differences, and most of them are in the appointments on top of the drivetrain, right? Like, so the motor and the transmission and the all-wheel drive system and stuff are the same, but that's kind of where it stops. So all the appointments and everything that are on top of it are what make the difference, and what make the difference between the two vehicles. It's very much the same between an Epiphone and a Gibson, except that I guess my car's made in Brazil and the Porsche is made in Germany. So there you go. Same exact thing. So does that make my car as good as? No, it's not. It just isn't. It's different materials. It's different everything. Do they kind of perform the same? Kind of. They kind of do. But they're not the same. Epiphone and Gibson are the same thing. And then there's also the whole, they're made in China. So, there's that. If you care about that, if that's something that's important to you. So the just as good as guys are going to be ultra fired up when it comes to, and that's what I've decided to start calling them, the just as good as guys. This guitar is just as good as that one. No, it ain't. It's not. I mean, if you have two guitars that are priced the same, made from the same materials, made in the same country, okay, so yes, you could have a comparison between those two things, right? I get it. But when you're talking about a Squire versus a Fender, you're talking about an SE versus an American core model, if you're talking about an Epiphone versus a Gibson, they're just not. They're not the same and they're not as good. End of story. It's very easy to understand the differences if you're objective about it and look at the list of parts, look at where everything comes from, and understand why these two guitars cost different prices. But I also think that very thing is why they're doing this middle of the road high-end Epiphone. Everybody's been saying lately, Epiphones are getting more expensive. I don't think so. Well, I mean, the original Epiphones are the same price. So that Les Paul that we had in here last week was $699. So they've been around there for, with inflation and everything, they've basically been at the same price for a very long time. Are there Epiphones that exist that are more expensive? Yes, but that does not make the brand getting more expensive. What they're doing is they're placing models in between to bridge the gap. So all of the just as good as guys who say that the $699 Epiphone is just as good as the $3,000 Les Paul, they're not. So what they're doing is they're actually going to bridge that gap some and try to take that away. I don't think it's going to work. I think the just as good as guys are just going to get worse. I think that's what's going to happen. I think they're just going to keep saying, well, now it's almost exactly the same because the peg head is the same. You know what I mean? And here's the thing. When I make these statements about this, people get super offended about it because you might be an Epiphone guy or you might be a Gibson guy, whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't care what guitar you buy. You should just buy one. And they're all good. They're all good. All of them are good. So whatever your price point and your desire for the guitar is, that's totally cool. So if Epiphone has a combination of parts that you like, and you like the fact that it doesn't have fret nibs, and you like the fact that it has, whatever features, maybe you want a poly finish. Not everybody likes a nitro cellulose finish. So if you're that guy, buy an Epiphone. Be proud of it. Don't be a just as good as guy, though, because it's not. But it's amazing for you, so that's all that matters. Doesn't even matter. Who cares? Who cares what anybody else says? Just like the guitar. I like it too. I think it's amazing. I think they're great. I don't like the pickups that much, but we have a fix for that, But the stuff is great. It's just not the same. I just worry that there will be more confusion in the brand because of doing it this way. I don't know, but that is what I worry about. That is what I worry about. Let's see. Why does it matter where a guitar is made as long as the build quality is good? It doesn't always matter, and it doesn't matter to everybody, but some people care. And that is important to some people, and I'm okay with that. I think there's too much time spent on those types of conversations. If you're a person who wants to buy a guitar that is made in a particular country, if you are a person who wants to buy a guitar that is avoid buying a guitar that is made in a particular country, you be you, boo. Do whatever you got to do, man. And I have no problem with it. It does not bother me. And my choices should not bother you. Enjoy what you have and enjoy what you are willing to and able to spend your money on. No problem at all. But there are people that it is important to. You wouldn't put a Porsche logo on your Audi. Some people might put a Gibson sticker on their Epi headstock, though. Totally true. Do you think that people would behave, let's see, this coppish way, if it weren't for the tendency of guitar culture to be like, you ought to have the Gibson, Fender, 50s vintage spec, etc., etc.? So here's the interesting thing about that. The brands don't do that to you. This is going to be my just going to say it moment, okay? For this week. Do you think we would be like this if it wasn't for the tendency of guitar culture to be like, you ought to have the Gibson, Fender, 50s vintage spec, etc., etc.? The brands don't do that to you, because I don't do that to you either. So I'm going to say you You do that to each other. So that's up to you. I don't do it. I think stuff's cool. I think cool stuff is cool. I think that people should worry less about how much a guitar costs, how much a guitar, whatever. It doesn't matter. Who cares? If you think it's cool, buy it. I'm not going to say anything bad about it just because it's less expensive, just because it's whatever. I'm going to show you the technical differences between an Epiphone and a Gibson and a Squier and a Fender, and why this one is more expensive and why the cost is justified, and break down the cost of parts and all the sorts of things that we do on this channel to make it very informed. And there are reasons why cheaper things are cheaper and more expensive stuff is more expensive. But what you feel you need and what you feel you want to spend your money on is your business. And I support whatever that is. 100%. I don't have any problem with it. And neither do the guitar companies. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to make a notch or like a slot for every one of you. And that's what it is. The reason there is a, $1,500 Les Paul and a $7,000 Les Paul, and they're trying to fill in, Gibson wise, they're trying to fill in the gaps between all that stuff, is because if you want to spend $1,500, if you want to spend $1,700, if you want to spend $2,000, if you want to spend $2,700, if you want to spend $3,200, and etc., there is a spot for you. Nobody's trying to rip anybody off. There's no grand scheme of anything, except for they are trying to find a price point for everything. Everything is like that. Cars are like that. Cameras are like that. Knives are like that. Knives are really like that. There's a Chinese company called Wee Knives, and they have Wee, Civivi, and Sencut. And they have so many models that it's like confusing. But the bottom line is, if you wanted to spend $20, $25, $30, $35, $40, $45, $50, $55, or whatever it is, I don't know where the crossover point is, but then it's like, there's your Sencut brand. And then from 55, like in $5 increments, all the way up to, whatever, there's your Civivi brand. And then above that, there is your Wii brand, is, on up to thousands of dollars. And they've purposely made all these models so that whatever money you have in your pocket right now and you want to buy that knife, there is a knife for you in the style that you want. And that is what Gibson is trying to do. They're trying to fill in these various things. The only thing that I think is dumb is putting Epiphone on a Gibson headstock. I think they're trying to do it to build value into the Epiphone name by putting it on a Gibson headstock. But I just don't think... Who's going to buy one now? Hands up. Who's going to buy one now that there is an Epiphone with a Gibson headstock on it? Who's going to buy one now? Get in the comments. Do a little, leave an emoji, smiley face, something. Who's going to do that? I want to know. Let's see. But a Gibson's headstock isn't the same as an Epiphone. Putting a Gibson sticker on it doesn't make it so. No, that is true. And somebody said to me earlier, Martian Murray, you want the modern light? Dude, that guitar is really cool. I have one right over here. It's really awesome. Somebody said to me earlier, they're like, well, what's the difference between Fender? Fender's been doing it forever, and PRS has been doing it forever. They have. But what they did was they did not revert. So somebody will say, well, yeah, they did the Gibson Epiphone brand. Yes, they have. way back in the day, but not in this lifetime, not in this market, not in this culture that we have now. It's been a long time. Fender has always kept the peg head shapes the same. They have always kept, PRS has done the same thing, more or less. And then just put SE on there, and Fender's put Squire on there. But they've done that from the very beginning. So there's no messing with your head there. And they're very clear about these guitars come from here, and these guitars come from here, and this is the price point, and this is it. And they've done a good job of having a product that will get someone familiar with the legacy brand and continue to build them into that legacy brand and be part of the Fender family. And Gibson does that too. But I think this is going to confuse it. This is going to confuse it. Is the Modern Light just a single cut SG? No, it's not. It's a very light, thin Les Paul is what it is. It's really nice. It's really cool. It's a neat guitar. I like it. All right, let's see. If cheaper Epiphones looked like Gibsons, I'd buy one. I get that, but they don't. Let's see. I thought they were slightly different in tilt angle. Yeah, I think they are too. It has the wrong truss rod cover, so it's off anyway. Yeah, I just think it's yeah, cool is cool. So if you want it, get it. But I don't think it's gonna, I don't know. I'm just not into it. I am just not into it. Not at all. Let's see. Yeah, Johnny Guitars 57. The price point that the SE PRSs are at is really good. Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Here's the thing. The whole American guitar versus or let's not even say American. Let's say the whole main core model guitar model thing versus import or lower tier model thing should really be no conversation. It's no conversation anywhere else in anything else. You know, because there's a lot of people that have to buy or aren't willing to pay for the expensive version of a thing. They're just not. But they don't go around like, my Volkswagen Golf is better than a Porsche 911. You don't do that. It's not the same. It just isn't. Let it be like that. It's okay. Like, allow your Volkswagen Golf to be a Volkswagen Golf. They're cool too. Epiphone Les Pauls are cool, man. They are. They're really cool. I just had one here. It was a really nice guitar. And then the other people will be like, well, it's not worth it because blah, 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 blah. The Gibsons are so expensive, whatever. Sometimes, and I think somebody said on my Facebook post about this earlier. They were like, they were, talking about, well, it's going to basically, they were saying it's going to be the same now, just with a different name on the peg head, which is not true. The materials are different. The finishes are different. The wood is different, comes from a different place. The bodies have more pieces in them if they're an Epiphone. They've got veneers on them. I mean, we went through all of this stuff, right? In our Les Paul video a couple weeks ago. And somebody said to me, well, the thing is none of those things really make any difference to the tone. And there's two parts to this. One is how you hold the guitar and how it feels to you makes a difference in how you play. So it does. I agree with you that if you change the style of the finish, it's not going to make the guitar sound any better or worse. It's not. Not in 2023. There has been times in the past where that's been a big deal and finishes have been really thick and that kind of stuff. But not in 2023. We're pretty good at painting guitars now. Most of those things, you're right. They don't really matter when it comes to tone. And somebody said that, and I'm like, my response to them was pretty surprising to them, I think, and it's maybe surprising to you. I think too many people focus on tone in this conversation. I just want a nice thing. I just want a thing because it's cool. I mean, okay. Chris Reeves Sabenza. Those of you that know what a Chris Reeves Sabenza is, you know this is a nice knife. Would a Chinese what you call, I don't know what knife, let's see, Kershaw, that's got a 3.5 inch or whatever blade, cut stuff? Yeah, it would cut stuff. But I want something nice. This is cool. I like this thing because it's cool. It's really well made too. And there's details about it that I appreciate, that I care about. And you might not care about them, and you might never spend the amount of money that one of these knives costs because it doesn't matter to you. That's okay. It's totally fine. Absolutely totally fine. But when somebody wants something nice, like a Les Paul, they just want something nice. Why not? It doesn't have to sound better. It doesn't have to, well, the tone, bro. Like, it's totally resonant, bro. Like, all that stuff doesn't matter if you don't like it. If you don't like it, you're not going to play it. Get something nice. It's easy. It's easy. Get something that is nice to you. What you think is nice. Get that. Maybe it's all flat black with matte finish and nothing on it. That's really cool. If you think that's cool, it's cool. Don't worry about it. Well, what's it going to do to the tone if... Don't worry about it. Just buy the friggin' guitar and play it if you like it. If it's nice. Get it. Do it. Let's see. Difference between Gibson, Epiphone, Les Paul is simple. Pickup position. That's actually a myth that is not true. And we measured it with calipers to prove it so a couple of weeks ago. It is not true. My guitar was supposed to be finished in 4 days. Getting a little work done. It's day 8 today. When should I go bug my tech? Oh, that's a good question. I will say that I believe that this time of year does require a little more patience, right? It's there's a lot of days off. There's a lot of holiday stuff. Mail is very slow. We are trying to build it in so that we can, like, for what we do here with making pickups and stuff. But man, this is the time of year where driving across town takes a little longer. Going to the post office takes a little longer. The mail takes a little long. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I don't know. I kind of get, I've ordered some stuff. I've got some stuff coming, and it's like, well, this one's going to be here Thursday and the next one's going to be here in 2 weeks. And I'm like, but whatever. It's that time of year. It's just going to be busy and stuff's going to be slow and, whatever. Mm. 2550 Marshall guy says that I don't know how to measure. Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. It's all about tone and playability if you are a musician. Yeah, but if you don't like it, then you're not going to get the tone out of it that you want. That's the thing. The thing I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of really serious musicians. I do. I know some really good ones. On who've played on records that you've heard. And 99% of the time those guys are like, I don't know. I just grab one and I just play it. You know? I think people put a lot. I was thinking about this the other day. This whole thing about like a guitar has to have mojo and it has to have soul and vibe and all this stuff. And I just think that is all bullshit. All of it. It is a freaking piece of wood with wires on it. That's it. Now, we can do stuff to make it work better. And we can do stuff to make it, that's why we put pickups in it. That's why we make pot choices and cap choices and stuff. But the guitar itself has nothing. I think the perspective needs to change on that too. This is my opinion, obviously, and you can disagree with me if you want. I don't care. It's fine. But just for the sake of conversation, I think too many people worry about the guitar having mojo and affecting them. But it has nothing. It's what you get out of it. It is your job to get something out of that instrument and turn it into a song, turn it into a riff, turn it into a whatever. If you don't connect with that guitar for some reason, because the finish feels weird to you, because the fretboard feels weird to you, because of the whatever, pick a different one. But it's not the guitar, it's you. It's always you. It's rarely the instrument. Most guitars these days are good. And most guitars these days, I would venture to say that every guitar over about $5.99 could be used on a record and nobody would ever know. Nobody would ever know. Especially if Glenn Fricker was your producer, because he'd make them sound all the same anyway. I'm just kidding. Nobody would ever know. You could use whatever you wanted if the guitar player was good enough to get the sounds that he wanted out of the guitar. It's what you get out of it, not what comes out of it. And are there some guitars that are limited? Yes. Yeah. There's some pickups some cheap pickups and stuff that just won't do what you want them to do. So I do get that, but I just think we spend way too much time thinking about this backwards. And if you think about it like that, and then you look at a guitar like a Epiphone or a Gibson or a Harley Benton or whatever, no matter where you are in your journey playing guitar, whether you started yesterday or you've been playing for 40 years, if you pick up an instrument and it inspires you to play, then it's a good guitar for you. End of story. Doesn't matter what's on the peg head. Doesn't matter. I just don't think we think about stuff like that. I want to continue to think about stuff in more like that. You know what I mean? I'm going to super chat. So which numbered set am I getting? I don't remember. I'm actually not going to number them until we start. Well, we've started, but until we get that far where we're actually putting them together. I actually might make them all and then number them so that I don't get them mixed up, because I don't want to have a problem with doing it wrong. Ron J, talk into the mic. I've been talking into the mic the whole time. Why are guitar players so critical and cranky? You need to calm down and just enjoy yourself. My setup is a total mishmash of gear. No rhyme or reason. Mine is too. Because I just buy what I like. If it's cool, if it looks cool to me, I just get it and I just try it. And I am not a Gibson guy, a Fender guy, a PRS guy, whatever, the people that get super principled about I can only play a particular fretboard. Well, then you need to practice more. If you can only play 7 1/4, you can only play whatever. Okay, so if you're like, toes in a bossy, I can understand why you kind of don't like 7 1/4 fretboards. Okay. But for most people who play most types of music, I believe that you should have in your arsenal a 7 1/4 and a 12. And you should learn how to play both. And if you can't, you need to practice more. Because really good guitar players can play anything. They can play any fret size. They can play any neck relief or fretboard radius. All that stuff. I just think we put too much stock in it. So I'm the same as you, octopus ears. My stuff is all mixed up too. I've got 7 1/4. I've got 9.5. I've got 12. I've got fat fretboards. I've got thin fretboards. I've got different fret sizes. Obviously, different pickup combinations. All that stuff's really fun. Oh, hang on. Wait. Oh, shoot. We have a bunch of super chats. I'm sorry. I missed these. Tim Jenkins Guitar says, Epiphone should have had the Gibson headstock years ago. All other major guitar brands in their cheaper series have had the same shapes. Fender, PRS, Ibanez, etc. See, so this is why I think it's a mistake that they do it now. I think it confuses everybody because it was like that. If they would have started at the beginning, like Fender, I 100% agree with you, but I think that's why it's a mistake. Jim Woodard, I'm sorry I missed your super chat as well. I know some of my axes are an aesthetic choice, but I'd rather feel great about what I'm playing. I have to do this for hours a day, so I want to enjoy. Dude, 100%. That is exactly what I'm saying. Guitar players make it seem like that you can't enjoy what you have. Like, this is supposed to be fun. Playing guitar is fun, okay? And I think it is. I don't know why you do it, but I do it because it's fun. And, well, it's also my living. That's how I make food money. But it is also fun. It's very fun. And if it's not fun, don't do it. Or if it isn't fun, get a different guitar. Don't do it because I need more mids. Like, maybe you do. But don't make every decision based on, well, the nano particle of the, don't do that. Don't be that guy. Yeah, guitar playing's fun, man. I did get a new amp yesterday. I got the tiny Spark. The thing's actually really cool. I think I still like the mini better, the little square one better, but the tiny one's actually really cool too. I do it because I love it, because I get paid, and because it's fun. Amen to that. You don't need gear. You need to practice. Whatever. I get that. I get that people are like, you don't need a nice guitar. You need to practice. Okay. Yeah, but again, if you don't feel good about it, you're not going to practice. If your guitar's crap, or if it's not what you want, or if it doesn't play right, or if you're not going to practice. This is something that I think about with new players. So like kids, this is why I tell parents to buy Fender Squiers and Epiphones instead of those garbage guitars that everybody sells on Amazon and stuff, and Thomann, because it's you get a far greater chance of getting a guitar that actually plays properly, or that can be set up properly and easily, like all those department store guitars and stuff. If you don't give your young friend or relative or son or daughter a good starting experience, they're never going to want to do it. So yeah, practice. Yeah. But enjoy it. Like, have a cool thing, man. Have a cool thing. A guitar that is difficult to play or isn't any fun means you will not practice. Exactly. That is what I'm saying. It's okay to buy expensive gear just because you want to. That's the other thing I think people, guitar players, you don't deserve that because you're not good at whatever. I deserve it because I work my ass off and I can afford it. Therefore, I deserve it. Whether I'm a good guitar player or not is not even part of the conversation. If I worked all summer and saved up and I bought this guitar, whether I was a good guitar player or not, doesn't matter. I still deserve it. And all you guitar players who think otherwise, we're probably not going to be friends. All right, man. Let's see. Well, you guys, this has been fun. Been an interesting conversation to have. And I'm glad to have had it with you. Don't forget that there are, well, let me just see. We sold some stuff while we were here, so let me just look really quick and see how many of those things we have left, because I don't know. Okay, so we sold some other stuff, but not that. So we still have 3 sets of the 10th anniversary Damascus pickups in stock, or available to order. That's a pre-order. So if you want them, feel free. And then if you do want Epiphone, or if you do want Greenie pickups, we do have those as well. And I will make them upside down if you want, even though I think it's dumb. I will do it if you want it. Cool. You guys have been awesome. Thanks for hanging out. And we will see you probably Thursday.